Shalom, Kol Halal, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Rakaha, Kodash. Double honors unto the apostles, double honors unto the elder bishops. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so, now more so than ever. The would-be judges, the 144,000, 12,000 men from the 12 tribes of Israel, who are to be the rulers, the new government here on earth, as the kingdom of heaven is set up on earth as it is in heaven, enforcing the laws of the Bible, which will be done by the tabernacle of David, led by King David himself, proving yet again that the Bible does speak of regeneration, reincarnation. The word promises that David will lead the house of David yet again, under the authority of who the world fraudulently and falsely calls JC, whose name is Yahushai. All right, and to the rest of the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth among the heathen Gentile nations that have the appearance of those heathen Gentile nations. This is not a black only thing, right? That is a false social construct, the whole black and white thing created by Edom to deter from the truth. And to the rest of the few, or should I say the few Akwath sisters that are listening and learning, to you I say shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the great millstone, coming at you with a quick lesson in truth. This shouldn't be long. But I saw this, upon waking and starting my day. First video I saw was of Kim Iverson. And I've been using her videos as a talk and teaching point for well over a decade now. And so, as I normally do, I'm going to go troubles that I've had with videos in the past. I'm going to go straight to the there we go. Straight to the disclaimer. Copyright disclaimer. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, research. Fair use is permitted by the copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. And I know that a lot of these people, and I'm sure Kim has as well, but Jimmy Dore, I've heard Jimmy Dore say things, use verbiage that I use. So I know that he has watched or watches, my videos at this point, because I've also used many of his videos for like maybe the last 3-4 years. I've been using Jimmy Dore's content as a launch point to edify, because they come out or Jimmy Dore, Kim Iverson, they have really great talking points, talking about real issues and important things that are actually happening in this world, chronicling the downfall of Edom, but they don't do it from a biblical stance. All right. And when they try to use the Bible, they also go off because, they use this very thing that they're criticizing, this whole Christianism thing is all a false construct, to create Edomite superiority, what you would call white superiority. That was the whole purpose of Christianity, was to elevate white superiority, starting from the Renaissance until now. Let me get some receipts to prove that. These are talk points, AI points that were used in Apostle Gabar's video that I watched a couple days ago, and I screenshotted, and he asked the AI a question and said, and this is the answer that it gave. Europeans, as as Christianity, European origins, all right, as Christianity spread across Europe, all right, which that's a social construct in itself. Europe is in Asia, all right. So they created this term Europe to create a false sense of identity, all right, as if they're not the Edomites and if they didn't come from Petra, which is in Jordan, just below Israel, all right. They created this false narrative that all pale people came from this part of the world, which is a lie. Artists began to portraying Yahushua in their own image during the Renaissance, and which means that he had a different image. All right. During the Renaissance, influential artists like Leonardo DiCaprio, Michelangelo established the European depiction of Hamashiach that became dominant. All right. Colonialism and power, the pale image or white image of Yahushua was exported worldwide. So they're telling you, AI is telling you right there that that the image that they use now was a made up one. It is not the actual image. The Bible tells you what the Lord looks like, and he was, chocolate brown with woolly hair. It tells you that over and over. Colonialism and power, the white image of Yahushua was exported worldwide throughout European colonialism and missionary work. This created a visual association between whiteness and divinity. It did, which was used to justify racial hierarchies and oppression in colonized lands. And what they brought with them was rape, robbery, murder, land theft, disease. All right. Rape, robbery, murder, land theft, which is in essence is Christianism. All right, because and then they teach that's what the word Catholic means. They teach universalism, and the Bible is not a universal book. The Bible is a Hebrew Bible to the Hebrew people and for the Hebrew people who were scattered. All right, and who are to be redeemed. That's what the story of the Bible is about. It's about us, the chosen people who got scattered mainly through slavery by ships. So you know that wasn't the little hats. Matter of fact, look up the manifest and find out who the ship owners were primarily. That was their and they got scattered to the four corners of the earth that way. Scattered among all people, not acknowledged as a people. All right. Then it tells you that another people would stand up in their place and claim to be them in the last days. It also tells you that in the last days, they would wake up and remember themselves. So any group of people claiming to have been them all along, well, that group of people would be a liar. And that's what this is about. This is about the shameful spewing on the glory and the exposure of Esau, Edom. Let me grab a quick scripture. All right. This is I kind of want to read that one, but this is Book of Obadiah 1:6, and it simply reads, "How are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up?" Well, through the Bible. All right, through the mysteries. All right, my Bible app started talking, man. That shit bugs me out. Never did that before. But through the mysteries of the Bible. Because if it wasn't a mystery, everybody would get it. That's why it's so much confusion.
Virginia Giuffre's new book has just dropped today, and it is atrocious, the details that she has in this book. Virginia Giuffre passed away in April of a suicide, supposed suicide, maybe an actual suicide. It's unclear. However, her new book, Nobody's Girl, dropped today. She had insisted before her death that this book came out no matter what happens to her. She wanted this book published. It is now published, and the details in it.
And it makes you wonder, if she really did. See, there's a question about her suicide, because there's a lot. I remember the story about Arthur Koestler when he wrote The 13th Tribe. If you're not familiar with it, it's a book that was written by a Jewish historian, a scholar. And he wrote that if for the Israelis to be the the children of Israel, there would have to have been a 13th tribe. All right. And it was an exposure, one of many, by many authors and many of their own. Because I wonder if Arthur Koestler would be called an anti, if they would put the anti-Semitic title on him. I guess it would be kind of hard to do. All right. But nevertheless, that's what they would call it. Anything that comes against them or disagrees with them, that's what they hide behind. But his death was strange because somehow, right when he was about to write his second book, it turns out that he and his wife just decided that they would end their lives together. And it seems that they both held hands and jumped out of their fourth-story building to their deaths. I believe it was in London. All right. They just decided, old cruel world, and held hands and leapt out of that four-story building to the concrete. So, yeah. All right. And all that to avoid this. Let me grab one more scripture and let Kim take it back. This is Habakkuk 2:16. And it reads, "Thou art filled with shameful glory. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of Yahweh's right hand shall be turned unto thee." And man, I can't wait. "And shameful spewing shall be upon on thy glory." And shameful spewing is upon their glory. Continuously, they're being shamed, and their wickedness is being exposed. As not only the little hats, the Amalekites, but the whole of Edom in itself. And don't get it twisted. Miss Iverson here is also an Edomite. Her dad's an Edomite. Her mother is a Moabite. She, however, we know through the Bible that you are whatever your father is. All right. So she's a part of that. Shameful spewing is also upon her glory.
Are disgusting. She points at many very powerful people. She doesn't name very many names. I mean, in the book, she does name Prince Andrew, but there's others that she just alludes to. She calls them billionaire 1, billionaire 2, billionaire 3, prime minister 1, a sadistic prime minister, soon to be governor of a Western U.S. state, and a former U.S. senator. These are the titles that she gave in the book, probably to protect the publisher, because she'd already publicly said who these people were in her testimonies and in her various different interviews. But in the book, she doesn't actually name those names. But different new details have come out in this book, and it is absolutely disgusting. I think just once again showing why so many people are demanding Epstein files. We want to know who these powerful people were, what kind of blackmail is on them, how compromised are they, and what sort of decisions do they make on behalf of American citizens using taxpayer dollars because they themselves were actually blackmailed. This is the New York Post. They came out with Virginia Giuffre's beaten, raped by well-known prime minister in an attack that broke Epstein's spell. Her memoir reveals. This is the story from New York Post.
And this is really putting shame upon the Trump administration as well. All right, as they're doing all these horrific things to other people, everything to distract from this story here. All right, because this right here, which you're hearing this horrific story about the accounts that was done to this lady by her own people. That's the true nature of a Christian. All right, it is. And the true nature of of the little hats is written in their belief system, not in the Bible, but in their belief system, because they follow other books. That this is okay behavior, especially if you're not one of them. You're just a goyim. You're just a cattle. You basically, that's why I always associate Amalekites with vampires, because that's in the movies. That's how vampires look at people. I was just watching Blade yesterday, and the guy was saying, telling Blade how he was weak because he had affection for these insects. Look at them scurrying around like insects. They're just food. And that is the mentality that these imposters have, thinking they're something when they're absolutely nothing. All right. And the way that they treat other people. All right. Including their own people.
Prominent Jeffrey Epstein victim Virginia Roberts Giuffre was brutally bloodied, beaten, and raped by a well-known prime minister in a series of savage encounters that finally helped the teenager break free from the sex trafficker's spell. In her posthumous memoir, Nobody's Girl, a memoir of surviving abuse and fighting for justice, Giuffre recalls begging Epstein to step in after the unnamed politician forced her to beg for her life.
Now, looking at the image of this, because what happened to her was just unacceptable. It really was, but when you're looking at her physically now, she, he's like, well, who would, because, she didn't, well, let's put it this way. When she was young, she was quite attractive. All right. So, I mean, when you're looking at the face now, the woman who passed away, when these things were happening to her, she hadn't, hit the wall so hard. It hadn't happened yet. All right. She was actually, very attractive, when these unfortunate things were happening to her.
But the pedophile coldly told her it was simply part of her job. She says, after the attack, I couldn't stay a fool, having been treated so brutally, and then seeing Epstein's callous reaction to how terrorized I felt. I had to accept that Epstein meted out praise merely as a manipulation to keep me subservient.
Epstein didn't care. All Epstein cared about was getting that footage. All right. And, and of course, probably was no camera for this one because it was one of his own. But she was just there to service and, but when these things were happening by American politicians and actors and, they got that footage. Because this is, and it's clear to the world that this is how the American government is completely and totally compromised, because all these people in high places, well, they did things just like this prime minister to these young girls and boys. Yeah, it was done to boys too.
Who is she talking about? Well, we have some guesses based on some of the various different interviews and her testimony that she's done. When she talks about the sadistic prime minister, Giuffre describes an unnamed prime minister who raped her violently, choked her unconscious, laughing as she bled. She wrote that this man met her on Epstein's private island around 2002, and that Epstein later dismissed her pleas not to be sent back, telling her, you'll get that sometimes.
Damn.
So when she said I was abused and he was really violent, he's like, you'll get that sometimes. Giuffre never revealed the leader's nationality, explaining that she feared retaliation. No major outlet has definitively identified him. The reporting acknowledges speculation linking the description to an unnamed world leader in Epstein's circle. And that unnamed leader is, they believe that this is Ehud Barak, the former prime minister of Israel. And at the time, he was the prime minister when he was doing this. That is the allegation that people are pointing at. They're saying that it looks like it was actually him. Let me see if I can find the notes on this specifically. He was the prime minister of Israel from 1999 and defense minister from 1999 to 2001. Then he was the defense minister from 2007 to 2013. And yeah, they're saying that this is who they believe. They believe that the prime minister, Giuffre, refers to a well-known prime minister, also described as a former prime minister or former minister in reviews, who subjected her to one of the most brutal encounters in 2002 on Epstein's private island and aboard his plane. She details sadistic abuse, including repeated choking until she lost consciousness, beating that left her bloodied from her mouth, vagina, and anus.
Damn.
And rape that caused days of pain in breathing and swallowing.
Fuck. Yeah, so, that's Judeo-Christianism in a nutshell. This is how they gain power and kept power. All right. And using this man that they silenced, whether he's really dead or not, I don't know if it's a question is if the guy's actually even dead, if he's just hid somewhere. He was an insider, or, it could have been one of those situations where, we're sorry that it's you, but, we can't allow you to live because, yeah. So however it goes, E is found out, man, and they can't hide this, and in criticism of them, you know what that happens if you point out anything that they do wrong. As a matter of fact, I asked AI a question. without naming anyone. And I'm going to show you the answer. And this was yesterday, I believe. And I asked if there was a nation on earth, and you know, because I don't have the actual question. I don't remember what I said word for word, but I do. I can show you the query. You know, the answer that it gave. And I asked if there was one nation on earth, all right, or group of people who committed heinous crimes against humanity and against other nations, all right, and then they turned around and projected those crimes upon other people, all right, upon their enemies and other people, and also played the victim. Who or what would that group of people, who, you know, what would or who would that group of people be? I didn't say any names or anything like that. I just asked that question. And here's what AI said. It says, and I wonder if we're going to play this game again. You know, they've been messing with, oh, there, now it wants to focus. All right. It says, AI overview. The query describes a political tactic, not a specific group or nation. All right, this is, you know, that was the first answer. To use identity-based accusations such as racism or sim, to deflect criticism, because I never even said that word, but you see what popped up? To deflect criticism of unethical behavior or political actions is documented strategy used by various individuals and groups across the political spectrum. I don't know of any various groups who do this. No single group has a monopoly on this tactic, and applying it exclusively to one people or nation would be a generalization. All right. Then it says multiple cases of context have been identified where accusations of bigotry are alleged used to silence critics. You see that? Then he gives the asterisk, and then what's the first bullet point? Anti-Semantics and criticism of Israel. Critics of Israeli policy have claimed that proponents of Israeli government sometimes weaponize accusations of anti-semantics to discredit or silence valid criticism, which they say distracts from human rights issues concerning the Palestinians. Conversely, supporters of Israel have accused critics of holding the country to double standard not applied to other nations, arguing such criticism is a form of anti-semantics. So it's true. If anyone else does it, it would be a problem. And the world is finally waking up to this fuckery. So let's and wow, I guess this will be shorter than what I normally do. Let me just get a scripture too to close this out. Because what's happening is the truth is being told. So we're going to go to 2nd Ezra, the 6th chapter. And we start at 27. Then we're going to jump back and read earlier. Down at about 6 or 7. But this is 2nd Ezra 6 and 27. And it reads, "For evil shall be put out, and deceit shall be quenched. As for faith, it shall flourish. Corruption shall be overcome. And the truth, which have been so long without fruit, shall be declared, to their dismay." Truth is being declared. And truth does not benefit, the little hats, nor Esau, Edom in general. This is 2nd Ezra 6. Why is this happening? Because this is where we are. Okay? This is 2nd Ezra 6 and 7. "Then answered I and said, What shall be the parting asunder of times? Or when shall be the end of the first and the beginning of it that followeth? The it that followeth is the kingdom of heaven, which will be here on earth. And the new government will actually be the Israelites, all right, and is sitting on the throne, of the head of those judges shall be King David under the authority of who the world fraudulently and falsely calls Jesus Christ. Yahushua. He's coming back to set up the tabernacle of David again. All right, Amos 9 and 11, Ezekiel 34:27. Matter of fact, I'm gonna read that too. This is second Ezra 6 and 8. And he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand held first the hill of Esau. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. And why? Because the tabernacle of David is going to be reestablished. All right, which spells the downfall and destruction of Esau, Edom. This is over for them. All right, is it 37:24? Is that it? Yeah, Ezekiel 37:24. And it reads, and David my servant shall be king over them, and they shall have one shepherd, and they shall walk in my judgments and observe my statutes. Well, Ezekiel 37 is basically the 12 tribes coming back together again, all right, in the latter days. Them waking up and remembering themselves. All right. I always talk about the importance of Ezekiel 36, 37, 38 in that order. 36 lets you know that Esau, Edom has taken the place of the Israelites and claiming to be them. That's in Ezekiel 36 chapter. All right. And that they're ruling from the Holy Land, and they've been saying that they're the people of the Lord when they're actually the house of Edom. Amalek to be on top of that. Remember, Isaiah 63, the Lord returns to a world ruled by the Edomites. That's who he's coming to knock out of power, to take down. All right. And then you read in 37, it's the awakening of the Israelites, them remembering themselves, and then coming out on the highways and byways with that stick declaring that they're the actual 12 tribes of Israel. And that's why we're here. All this controversy now in the world, because that awakening started, and that activated the prophecies, which leads us up to Ezekiel 38, which is WW3. Why? For the controversy of Zion. All right. So once again, David will sit at the head of that. It's Ezekiel 37:24. And David, my servant, shall be king over them, proving the regeneration, reincarnation. And they shall have one shepherd, and they shall walk in my judgments and observe my statutes and do them. So they're going to follow the Lord's statutes. And the shepherd over them will be Yahushua. You can't get around this, man, no matter how hard you try. This is Amos, and this is where we are. Amos 9 and 11. And in that day will I raise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen, and close up the breaches thereof. And I will raise up his ruins, and I will build it as in the days of old. Meaning we're going to go out and put our foot on the necks of all the other nations and force them to follow the laws and statutes of the Bible. All right, which is the law of heaven on earth as it is in heaven. Call halal Yahweh Bahasham Yahushai Bahasham Rakah Hakwadash Kwam Yasarala Abad Babal.